In 1985, Ed Sitzberger and his wife Patricia purchased a well-known street, James Hotel in West Morang City, New Mexico, USA. They celebrated the establishment of their new venture with joy, unaware that this street, James Hotel, was the most famous haunted hotel in the area. The hotel was established by the chief guard of President Lincoln, but due to its reception of many fugitives during the Western expansion period, it sparked numerous controversies. Amidst the chaos, there were many murders, leading to it being referred to as the Hell Hotel. When Ed Sitzberger first acquired the hotel, Room 17 was sealed with multiple wooden boards. The previous owner didn't know the reason and only told him that the room had been sealed for over 100 years, with successive owners not daring to open it. However, Ed Sitzberger didn't believe these claims. After the hotel reopened, he renovated it and unsealed Room 17. However, since the first day a guest stayed in Room 17, there were constant complaints of a malevolent presence, prompting requests for room changes. The nature of these complaints varied. Some reported hearing gunshots at midnight, while others claimed to see Native American natives suddenly appearing and disappearing in the room. Though the descriptions differed, the one consistent detail was the presence of a spherical object, about the size of a soccer ball, which would appear in different parts of the room without anyone moving it. Ed Sitzberger believed these guests might have been exhausted and influenced by the urban legends surrounding the hotel, resulting in hallucinations. Originally, he intended to stay in Room 17 himself, but Patricia thought it was too risky and decided to join him for the night. Despite Ed Sitzberger's skepticism about any paranormal activity in Room 17, he instructed the staff to patrol the area near the room every hour to ensure their safety. As night fell, after confirming their day's work, Ed Sitzberger and Patricia entered Room 17 together. Despite his disbelief in the supernatural, he felt a hint of unease. After entering the room and turning on the lights, they carefully inspected every corner to ensure there were no anomalies before preparing for sleep. Initially, they felt a bit nervous, but an hour passed without any incidents during the staff's patrols. Therefore, they decided to freshen up and get ready for bed. Just as Patricia was about to close her eyes, she noticed a spherical object at the corner of the bed, about the size of a soccer ball. Finding this strange, she immediately informed Ed Sitzberger, who turned to look but saw nothing. He suggested that exhaustion might have caused her to see things and reassured her to sleep. Although Ed Sitzberger had originally been concerned about the room being too dark, they dimmed the lights to avoid any issues. However, the bright light made it difficult for them to sleep, so they turned off the lights completely once Patricia and he were feeling drowsy. Just as Ed Sitzberger was about to close his eyes, he suddenly felt Patricia pushing against him. At first, he attributed it to her being frightened and the room being a bit chilly, so he didn't pay much attention. However, Patricia's pushing became stronger, almost pushing him off the bed. As he was about to fall off, he opened his eyes and was startled to see a man lying on the floor, staring at him. Panicked, he immediately turned his head back around, intending to wake Patricia, but he realized that it wasn't Patricia pushing him, but rather a shadowy figure in all black. The figure had only visible eyes, with its entire form being a mere silhouette. Ed Sitzberger was so frightened that he couldn't even scream, and he promptly fainted. The next morning, the staff found both of them unconscious in the bed. They rushed him to the hospital, and after a medical examination, it turned out that both of them were fine. Upon waking up, Ed Sitzberger questioned the staff about why they hadn't checked their room as promised. The staff explained that they had patrolled every hour and each time, they had heard Ed Sitzberger's voice confirming everything was fine and there were no issues. Ed Sitzberger found this incredibly puzzling since he had already lost consciousness by that time and couldn't have spoken to the staff. Patricia, upon hearing this, turned pale and shared that she had also experienced something very eerie in the middle of the night, but her memories afterward were blurry. When the staff discovered Patricia, although she was found lying in bed just like Ed Sitzberger, her posture and expression were extremely strange. Her body was contorted into an X shape, with her fists clenched and her eyes wide open, as if she had been frightened by something. At first, the staff thought she might have died due to her expression resembling that of a person who had been scared to death. However, they checked her breathing and found she was still alive, though temporarily unconscious. They quickly sent both her and Ed Sitzberger for urgent medical attention. Once Patricia regained consciousness, she recounted her experience to those around her, leaving everyone in a state of shock. When the lights were turned off and Patricia turned to sleep, she felt someone pushing her from behind. As she was pushed towards the edge of the bed, she assumed it was Ed Sitzberger's uncomfortable sleeping position and tried to push him back. However, as she turned around, she noticed something strange about the ceiling. Upon closer inspection, she saw a man plastered against the ceiling, staring at her. She was paralyzed with fear and unable to move, trembling all over. She kept her eyes fixed on the ceiling, fearing that the man might jump down. She tried to nudge Ed Sitzberger with her elbow, but there was no response. Assuming he was asleep, she shook him harder, hoping to wake him up. However, even after shaking him for a while, he remained motionless. Eventually, unable to bear it any longer, she turned to look at him. This sight nearly caused her to fall off the bed. It turned out that the person lying next to her wasn't Ed Sitzberger, it was an unfamiliar man. Although she wanted to flee the room, fear had rendered her completely immobile. Eventually, she managed to sit up, determined to escape. However, as she started to rise, numerous shadowy figures suddenly appeared around her. Patricia widened her eyes, opened her mouth, let out a scream, and then collapsed onto the bed, losing consciousness. News of the haunted experiences of the owners of St. James Hotel in Room 17 quickly spread throughout the nearby town. Some young people enthusiastic about the paranormal were interested in staying in Room 17 to experience its terror, and there were even groups formed for this purpose. However, to prevent any accidents, Ed Sitzberger decided not to open Room 17 to the public temporarily. Several months later, Ed Sitzberger sought the help of an exorcist to cleanse Room 17. Upon entering the room, the exorcist immediately told him that the number of malevolent spirits in Room 17 was the highest he had encountered in his exorcism career. While he could temporarily seal these spirits, he couldn't fully cleanse the room. Ed Sitzberger wasn't surprised by the exorcist's assessment. However, the exorcist added one last remark. Not only was Room 17 like this, but based on his understanding of the hotel, countless deaths had occurred there during the Western expansion period, particularly involving ruthless murderers. Since the hotel owners at the time didn't know how to handle the bodies, they buried them all beneath the hotel, and given the appearance of the hotel at that time, it resembled a massive tombstone.